Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Work Matters, where we take some time to interview a member of our church to get to know them a little bit better and to know the work that they are doing. And this month, I am thrilled to have Natalie Giduz. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Yeah, close enough. Natalie, who is a recent graduate of UNC and is now pursuing her master's in social work. And Natalie has been an instrumental part over the last several months. She and I have been in conversations about uh, adding some more structure and plans and some systems in place for our adoption and foster care ministry, something that we as a church have a heart for. And I'm thrilled, Natalie, that you have come up as a person who has the heart and the time and the energy and the capacity to do all of this. So thank you so much, and thanks for taking time to being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Roddy.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get to know you a little bit. You and I were chatting just a second ago prior to recording, but you grew up here in Chapel Hill, right? You've lived here your whole life.
Yes.
Yep, awesome. How did your decision to go to UNC? Was that kind of like an easy thing, no brainer for you?
Well, when I was growing up, I said that I was going to go to UNC because I didn't know how college admissions worked. And then senior year of high school, UNC was my top school, but I kind of assumed that God was going to send me somewhere else because it was a great opportunity. I figured God sending me somewhere besides UNC would have been a great opportunity for him to kind of teach me that my will is different than his will most of the time. But I got into UNC and just felt a lot of peace being on the campus and felt like the Lord was really asking me to be here at UNC. So I was I was thankful that the Lord gave me what I desired for so long.
Oh, good, good. And you ended up getting a degree in psychology. Why did you choose that route?
I really wanted to work with individuals with disabilities. And so I had a minor in speech pathology or
Okay.
speech and hearing sciences. So I wanted to do speech pathology. We didn't have a major in speech and hearing sciences. And so I figured psychology was, related enough and that it would be helpful going along with my minor.
Okay. And your MSW program, tell us about that. How long is that, and what do you hope to do afterwards?
Yeah, so my MSW program is a 2-year program. So I'm in my first year of the program right now. I have a concentration. My concentration is in direct practice, which basically means that rather than working with the systems and policy, I'll work more with individuals and groups. And then class-wise, I'm concentrating within child welfare. In regards to what I want to do when I graduate, I really don't know. Social work was not something I chose whatsoever. When I felt the Lord asking me to do social work, I was really hesitant and did not want to do it whatsoever. And after a really good year or two of wrestling with God, in regards to this call, I finally submitted to that and said, all right, God, fine, I'll do social work. I give in. And so I really don't know what I want to do when I graduate. I think I'm just going to follow whatever the Lord asks me to do with this degree. But I know that he's asking me to do this degree right now.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you recently completed an internship with an adoption ministry. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you get connected to them? What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, so I interned with Lifeline Children's Services for about 15 months over the past year. So when I finally accepted the fact that the Lord was asking me to do social work, I guess I hadn't fully accepted the fact. And I said, all right, Lord, I'm going to test you a little bit. I said, I'll find some internship in orphan care. And if you really want me to do social work as a career, then you need to make that really clear with this internship. And so I was Googling orphan care internships online and found Lifeline Children's Services. And I looked at it and I thought, wow, this looks way too good to be true. And Lifeline Children's Services is its headquarters are in Birmingham. And one of my campus ministers had just moved to Chapel Hill from Birmingham. And so I asked him if he'd heard of Lifeline. And he said, "Oh my goodness, they're an absolutely incredible organization. You should definitely apply to intern there." And so I applied, and COVID did not mess up the internship. It still happened. And within the first few minutes of my internship at Lifeline, the Lord made it really clear to me and just gave me a lot of peace with his call for me to go forward with social work. So with Lifeline Children's Services and my internship there, I did a remote internship with the Raleigh, North Carolina office. And so Lifeline has a bunch of different programs. Their mission statement is to equip the body of Christ to manifest the gospel to vulnerable children. And that looks like international adoption, domestic adoption, foster care, family preservation, crisis pregnancy counseling, education, educational tutoring, therapy, parent coaching, so many different areas. But the area that I was mainly on was I was working with one of the social workers in North Carolina who was walking families through the home study process for international and domestic adoption and the post-adoption process, so supporting families after they brought home their kids.
Okay. Yeah. Is there maybe like one thing you'd share with us that you learned during your experience there that you think, wow, this encapsulates the whole 15 months. This made the whole experience worth it?
That's a hard question.
All right. That's all right. I know.
Yeah.
I put you on the spot there.
I feel like the best way to encapsulate it was supposed to be a 3-month internship, and it became a 15-month internship because I enjoyed it that much.
Okay. Good.
I think it's really beautiful to see staff all over the country, actually all over the world, who are all followers of Christ, who are all working for the same goal in such a specific way, and who all see God's heart for the vulnerable so clearly in Scripture, and for that call, or for God's call to care for the vulnerable, that people have pretty much made their life surrounding that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so you and I, we connected, I think, for the first time close to a year ago. I believe you reached out to me, and we set up a meeting. I think I met with your supervisor at the time as well at Lifeline, and just to kind of start talking a little bit more about adoption and orphan care and foster care here at the Bible Church. And recently, very exciting, hosted a lunch a few weeks back. Several families came out and participated, and really good response. Share with us a little bit about what you and your team, like what you're hoping to develop and what you'd love to see happen here at the church.
I think I actually approached you right before COVID hit, Buddy. I think at that point I was actually applying for my internship at Lifeline, and I knew that a lot of what Lifeline did was working with churches to care for the vulnerable. And so I said, "Hey, Roddy, I'd love to, start an adoption foster care ministry at the church. Maybe after this internship, I'll have some of the tools to do this." And then COVID happened, and then extended my internship multiple semesters, and so it got a little delayed in that process. But I think I saw that adoption and foster care definitely happens at Bible Church a lot, and families are really obedient to that call. But it's not talked about enough, and there's not exactly a culture of it at the church, even though it happens. And so I'm really hoping to kind of create a culture of just caring for the vulnerable at the church, whether that be families themselves adopting and fostering, or families who aren't necessarily called to adopt or foster, them recognizing that they are called to care for the vulnerable. All of everything that Scripture says about caring for the widows and the orphans and the foreigners, it's not, those mandates are to people who are aren't only to people who got asked to adopt or foster a child, they're to the whole church. And so wanted to really create an outlet where families who are adopting fostering can be supported, but families who aren't adopting and fostering, they can also be fulfilling this call in scripture by supporting families of the church who are adopting and fostering. Mm. So yeah, our main goal is really to help support the families who are adopting and fostering, and to give the rest of the church an opportunity to support these families. So a lot of what that looks is really just community building for the families who are involved in foster care and adoption, giving those parents just time with one another, so they realize they aren't alone in their struggles. There are other people going through exactly what they're going through, and a time too for their kids to relate to one another, relate to other people around them. So what that's looked like so far is we had a lunch last month for families, and that was a really, really great time for families. They were able to make a lot of connections and really felt a sense of belonging, it seems like. We're also going to work on trying to create a support group for parents, as well as we're trying to find some mentors for some foster teens and adopted teens. Finding families within the church who are willing to watch a kid for a few hours or a night to give parents a break. Finding families, to bring family a meal when they're really struggling, or when they get a new foster care placement. Helping out families with rides and driving kids places. Really just wrapping around these families and supporting them as we should do, because they're part of our church.
Well, one thing I want to share too with people is if people are interested in adoption and if finances are a concern, is that we do have an adoption fund here at the church. It is for members. And if you are thinking about adopting or even just foster care and you need some financial support in order to do that, we really think that financial barriers should not be a reason for these kids not to come into good, loving homes. And if we can help you with that, please reach out to me directly. I'd love to have a conversation with you about that. But Natalie, what would you say, so somebody is considering fostering, they're considering adoption. What are some of the first steps that people should take?
I think a great first step would be emailing me, and I can connect you to some families at our church who are fostering or who have adopted, and you can just learn about their experiences. I can also, recommend some books for you to read to really get more of an idea of what that would look like. And then as well, we as a ministry would love to give you guidance in how to choose an agency to work for, or what type of adoption or foster care would be best for you and your family.
So, we got people various life stages here at the church, various capacities. If we think about time and think about talent and think about treasure, if we think about those categories, some people will say, hey, I have more time than financial resources, or I have more financial resources than time, or I have more actual capacity to invest and to help make a difference than I have time or than I have resources. So thinking about those categories, if you were to say, okay, so if a college student right now is watching this and they are sensing that God is calling them to be invested in some form or fashion, obviously a college student is probably not going to bring a child into their dorm, right? To live with them. And college students tend to not have a lot of income and a lot of financial resources. Like what can a college student do to help a child or a family in the adoption foster care system?
Yeah. So I think one great thing is really praying. If you would like to pray for some of the families at our church, contact me, and I would love to send you some prayer requests that families have been sending me. I think that is such an important thing to do. And prayer really, it doesn't take much time. You pray when you're walking to class. You pray when you're driving to church in the morning. You pray in the morning during your quiet time. I think another really great thing and something that we're really in need of right now is college students and young adults to be mentoring fostered kids who are in foster care and kids who have been adopted who are at our church. Everyone, needs someone to look up to. And, kids really like college students. They think you're really cool. And so just, taking a kid to go see a movie, taking them to go get ice cream. It's something that's really simple, but that would mean a lot to these kids. And these kids really need some guidance in life. Really just need more people to wrap around them and support them and make them feel like they belong.
I'll share a little bit of our story. We adopted our third son through Orange County DSS, and we had to go through a class called MAPS that I'm sure you're very familiar with. And it was 10 weeks, 3 hours every Wednesday night, just the class. And, so by the time we drove out to Hillsborough and got back, we're really talking about a 4-hour commitment. And we could not have done that well without a friend of ours here from church, Elsa Marie Mullins, who, when we started talking to her and mentioning to her that we were thinking about doing this, she just immediately said, "Oh yeah, I'll come watch your other boys." And so every Wednesday night she was at our house, around whatever time it was, around 6 p.m. So Katie and I could go out to Hillsborough and take this class. And yeah, college students could do that, could offer to babysit for free so a family can go and get licensed. There's just so many different ways that people can get connected with this. And that's an area that I know we certainly want to encourage people to think creatively. And you're a good resource for that, right, Natalie? I mean, people just want to know, what do I do? Contact you and you can give them some ideas.
Yeah, I'd love to give you ideas.
Yeah. And you were mentioning to me recently too that some of the state and county requirements are different, as far as like you don't necessarily need to be a licensed person also, right, to be able to provide respite care or to just take a kid out for a few hours. Is that correct?
Yeah. So every county differs in the rules regarding who can watch kids who are in foster care. By and large, most counties, if it's just for a few hours during the day, anyone that the parents trust can watch a kid in foster care for a few hours. Some counties will allow someone who is not the foster parents, who is not licensed, to watch a kid overnight, or maybe even for a few days overnight, while other counties will ask that whoever's watching the child gets a background check run on them. And that's not a hard thing at all. I don't believe you would even pay for that. I think the county pays for that.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it's really not, you don't have to go through all these training or the 30 hours of MAP classes that Roddy was talking about just to watch a kid for a few hours or even for a few nights. But that is, our respite care is a really, really big need for our families right now.
Okay.
Families, take on a lot because their kids have gone through a lot, and kids need a break and parents need a break, and respite care is a really great way to provide that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that actually. What are some of the expressed needs from people in our congregation right now that someone could immediately say, "Yeah, I want to tackle that issue"?
We need someone in Durham to pick a teen up from school each day. We also need someone in Durham who can watch a teenager in case his dad is called into work at night, who can kind of be an emergency backup to watch that teen at night. Need a family who's willing to just watch a kid for a few hours, watch some preteen and teen kids for a few hours in Chapel Hill every once in a while. or even if a family was willing to take some of those kids overnight, so the parents and their biological kids could just kind of take a break, so those parents can check in on their biological kids. I think too, something that's often forgotten is that biological siblings are often struggling as much as the parents are, and so they need a break too.
I remember, I think probably the best, most helpful piece of advice we were given when we started this process was that when you get into foster care and adoption, I think a lot of us, the tendency is to think, okay, I'm going to rescue a kid from their suffering. But the reality is that you're entering their suffering with them.
Yeah.
Right. The change of location doesn't all of a sudden solve and erase all the trauma that they've been through. But you're actually bringing that into your home. And that's a significant thing. We have 2 biological children, and that was a big consideration for us. Is we don't know what we're bringing into our home, not only now, but later down the road. But, one thing, Natalie, that's really stood out to me, and is just how costly our adoption it was. Jesus on the cross shedding his blood for us. It was painful. It was messy. It was ugly. It was all of those things. And so I think we shouldn't be surprised when our own adoption stories kind of follow suit. There are difficult moments. It's challenging. You're wondering, how the heck do I raise my own kids? And now, how do I bring another child into my home? I don't know their story. When they're acting this way, is it because of previous trauma? Is it just their personality? Is it, what is going on? And you just kind of enter this realm of the unknown, and you're really just having to enter into their suffering with them and to help shepherd their hearts through that. So that's one piece of advice I'd give to people who are considering doing this. Don't go in thinking you're just going to get a kid out of that situation and everything's going to be fine. You're actually bringing their story into your family's story, and it's worth it, but it's costly and it's difficult.
And I think too, some of the really powerful testimonies I've heard are of the biological kids of families who have adopted or fostered, and for those kids, for some kids, their experience very well could be different. But I know that we have young adults and kids at our church who are siblings to adopted and foster kids. And for them, their parents entering in to their sibling suffering has been the best display of the gospel to them. It's not just parents that are entering into a child's suffering. It's the whole family. But it's the whole family saying, hey, this is what Jesus did for us. Amen. And we're going to do this too, because he's asked us to enter into one another's sufferings and to suffer alongside them. But I don't think that there's no better way, I feel like, for a family to show their kids what the gospel truly is than to be living it out in this way.
I remember it was, it must have been about 7 years ago. So Elijah, our middle son, he would have been 6. And Katie and I took Gabe and Elijah out to the backyard, sitting on our trampoline, and started talking to them about this, that we were thinking about, maybe bringing a little boy into our home. And it was so sweet. I have an adopted sister. My mom was orphaned at age 10. So adoption, foster care is part of our family story. And so we were reminding the boys of that and telling them what we were thinking and praying through. And Elijah, again, around 6 years old at the time, it was so sweet. He immediately got up, ran inside the house, and started clearing out his closet to make room for the little boy who was going to move in with us several months down the road, So it's so sweet. So that's another thing I'd encourage people to do too. Your kids, whatever age they are, bring them into this conversation. It really needs to be a full family commitment. And man, the Lord just really ministered to Katie and to me through our 6-year-old's heart to say, you know what, I'm actually going to get rid of some of my stuff. This is a sacrifice that I can make. so I can open up some space for a little boy to come be a part of our family.
Well,
It was really precious.
That. Yeah. I think that is a really good example of showing your kids that it is something that they'll have to make sacrifices as well. But also seeing your son's willingness and almost, it seems like, excitement to do that.
Right. So you mentioned reading some books. There are probably some podcasts out there, a lot of resources, having conversations here with people at the church. You yourself are a resource, and there are others here who have been working in the field for a long time. Maybe let's close our time out. Maybe just sharing, like, again, just one very specific thing that you'd encourage, like, everybody listening to maybe say, okay, here's the next step for all of you. What might something like that be?
It really depends on where you're at and how you're wanting to answer the call to care for vulnerable children and their families. I'd say if you are a parent who has already fostered, who has already adopted or is fostering, or you are interested in fostering or adopting, my biggest recommendation would be to read The Connected Child by Karen Purvis and The Connected Parent by not by Karen Purvis. The Connected Child was by Karen Purvis. The Connected Parent, I cannot remember the author, but it's the sequel to The Connected Child. And I'm sure I can give Roddy those links and he can link it in the description. If you are wanting to answer the call to care for the vulnerable, but you're not in a place, or you're not being called by God right now to adopt or foster, I would say reach out to me, and I would love to hear your heart, hear where you feel like the Lord might be asking you to step into, and I can kind of give you some guidance and give you some options of how you can support families at our church.
So just a couple of closing thoughts, friends, as you're watching this. The early church was really known for the love that she displayed for the vulnerable in the community. This has been a hallmark of Christianity, and it is part of our witness, not only as we worship God, but as we witness to his goodness, and as we seek restoration in our communities, caring for the vulnerable. James says that religion that is pure and pleasing to God is caring for widows and caring for orphans. This is one of the ways not only in which we please the Lord, but also that we demonstrate his love and goodness to the world. And so I just want to challenge us as a church to pursue growing in that and caring for the widows among us, and also caring for kids. The number of children who are in foster care and who end up staying in foster care basically until they age out, and the cycle that creates for them, that they will likely have kids one day who will be in foster care. We have an opportunity to step in and to kind of interrupt that pattern and to bring the gospel to bear on the lives of these children. So I want to encourage you to stop and to pray and just ask the Lord, how should I respond? How should my family respond to the need and to the opportunity that is out there? And we will be praying along with you. And Natalie, thanks for your time. Thanks for being a resource for us. It's so great to have you and others here at the church who have experience in this and who can answer our questions. And I know we'll be putting out more information in the newsletter and issues to come about future gatherings where people can get connected.
Thank you, Roddy.
So yeah, thanks for your work, and friends, thanks for watching. God bless you.